next to the stage, I would like to welcome a true leader from the United States, Clare Martorana, the Federal Chief Information Officer of OMB, one of the many acronyms that you find in the States. But she works directly for the President of the United States. We had a beautiful chat yesterday. It was really inspiring for the small country of Iceland, who is missing a few zeros. We are 400,000 now, very proud of that. They are closer to 400 million, I believe. She is leading 50 states on a federal level, so our roles are a little bit different. But we are very honored and very proud that she is joining us here today, as well as all the Nordic and Baltic leaders. And we're very humble to be able to contribute to this. Welcome, Clare.
Good afternoon. What an honor to be here. I am always envious of my colleagues in Iceland. I wish those were my slides. My slides are a little more rudimentary, but just the progress has been extraordinary, and we feel so honored and privileged to have the opportunity to go on this journey with all of you. We're at such a unique time in our government in the United States, and I think I can say comfortably across the world. So looking forward to this conversation with you all. So Disa said, I am the Federal Chief Information Officer. My office is the Tech Policy Office at the White House, and we create and modernize tech policy to support modern technology service delivery across the federal government. I'm going to show you a little bit about who we are and what we do. So our office is in the White House, as I said, and we have a very complex ecosystem. We have 430 federal agencies that make up our federal government. And it is there is a component set of agencies that make up this center of government. And what we have realized, I think all of us in the last 10 or 15 years, is it is really technology that powers our missions in our federal agencies and across our federal government. So the Office of the Federal Chief Information Officer, we write the policies, we work collaboratively across the government, and there are components of government that are focused, like many of your countries, on service delivery directly to the public. We have 35 agencies whose mission includes high-impact services, so applying for benefits, applying for a passport, improving the screening that we do at airports. And then there are 400 others who have extraordinary missions in and of themselves to focus on delivering the best quality government we can to the American people. And the numbers that Disa mentioned, you might hear 350 million citizens of the United States, but we also manage incoming tourists. We have to process people that are applying for asylum, green cards, immigration in general. So our number is about 400 million people that are served through these agencies every year. So the USCIO office creates this policy, and we support this modern design. We spend self-reported data from our IT colleagues across government that we're spending about $115 billion a year on IT, and we have 2.1 million federal employees. And it is tech policy making that enables all of that service delivery. The way that we work, our Congress creates the laws. We then have to do policy and guidance to interpret those laws so that all of our teams, like your teams, can deliver. And then we build best practices, policies, and playbooks so that we can scale that learning across our ecosystem. We have, as you can imagine, with that complexity of 430 agencies, we have some agencies that are 10 people. We have some agencies that are over, 500,000 employees. So the scale of these are really completely different, but all of them need the guidance that we deliver to be able to create those experiences for the public. So digital, like every place in the world practically, is the default way that the public interacts with the government. We have a few more website visits, maybe than Andre showed a little while ago. Every month we have about 1.7 billion visits to the federal websites. One of the things we try to focus on is how much burden we are causing our public to have to interact with our government. The 80 billion hours spent monthly represents how hard we made it, right? We have not made this seamless yet. It is still really difficult. You have to search, then you have to try to find an agency, then you have to try to find a benefit, how to apply for the benefit. It's quite complex. And also, we are changing the skew of the way that people are accessing information with a lower, when I was in the private sector, my average was close to 80% of people visiting my digital properties were on mobile devices. In the government, it is a little bit lower level. But we're not meeting the expectations that people have of our government. They want to interact through digital channels. We are consistently asking for that feedback, validating what we're doing. But we also can't leave anybody behind. We need to have a multi-channel experience because not everybody is going to be interacting with our government in the same way. And you can see, I won't read you all the statistics, but we are utilizing many of the more modern tools, but also are doing a lot of work that is still servicing people in person or on the phone to have a personal conversation. But what the public sees when they're searching for government services online is not pleasant. You will hear a little later from my colleague, Andy Lewandowski, what the public sees and what the public expects, and how we are working hard to try and do better. This example is when you search to get our health benefits. If you're over age 65, you're eligible to get state benefits for health, which is a wonderful benefit in the US government. Under age 65, you have to pay for your own health care benefits, either through your employer or through the health care exchange that we design. So when you go to apply for Medicare, you would think that you would likely go to the agency, the health agency, Health and Human Services, but no, you have to go to Social Security first before you can apply for Medicare. And because we made this so complex, 1 million people have fallen into a gap that we created, and legally, they pay an extra penalty on their insurance premium every month for the rest of their lives. It's illogical. We've done damage to these people. We are working really hard to fix that gap, to take people out of that, and we know that we can do that by using really basic technology like search engine optimization to make sure somebody doesn't, they go through the funnel and we drop them to the right place and answer their question instead of having them navigate a labyrinth of different websites that are oftentimes confusing and oftentimes written in legalese language that I find hard to translate. Also, federal websites have a fragmented look. Andre spoke about life experiences. That's an organizing principle that we use, is making sure that we understand your journey. We understand, so if you're approaching retirement, if you are having a child, we look at that life experience, we build the journey maps, we do service design blueprints, we do all of the things, identifying those moments that matter where we might be able to have a digital interaction. But when you transit, these are our 6 of our most popular websites that account for, I believe, 80% of the transactions that the public has to do with government. They don't really look the same. You can't really tell. They're on a .gov domain. But people don't look at the URL. They look at the website, and they're trying to figure out in this environment, is this trusted? Am I actually on a government website? Some of them don't even have any indication that they're a government agency. So part of what we're working on right now is uniform visual design, look and feel, so that when you transit from one place to another, that you don't have to guess if you're being intercepted by a private sector company in your search results that deliver you a better experience. So this is something we're excited about working on. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Also, we have created some standards, like many countries around the world, for what this service delivery should look like. And we've designed something called the US Web Design System, which creates those uniform templates that would allow you to navigate from place to place. But 60% of our websites aren't accessible to all people with basic standards. 45% are not mobile friendly, so something that absolutely needs to be, and many are not using that same web design system. So again, areas for improvement. And then this is probably what I get the biggest headlines on in the United States when I publicly state that only 2% of our forms are digitized. We do a lot of work on paper. We oftentimes have a digital front end, so you could fill out a PDF online, submit it, and then we turn it into paper on the back end. And that is something we're working extraordinarily hard to remediate. Look at the amount of money that we're spending on paper. It's just not sustainable, and it's also based on our climate. It is not sustainable for the planet. So this is what we're working on. This is what the American public deserves. Simple, seamless, secure. That's why I could probably use your slides, Andre, because we're saying the same things. We have to make something simple enough for people to be able to ask a question, get guided to the right place, complete their task, seamless when they have to interact between agencies and move around, and then secure, which is top of mind for all of us. So we can do better. And we are going to do better. I was hoping today to be able to share with you some guidance that we are putting out, but maybe we will put it out in the next week or two. We're struggling a little with a potential government shutdown, which is taking up a lot of oxygen in our space. But this is a visualization of a concept. It is not a graphic design that we are using, but those same websites that I showed you a little bit earlier, if they had uniform branding, if we were using some of those web design system, we would be able to navigate someone seamlessly. They would be able to file their taxes. They'd be able to apply for health care, get their Social Security benefits, apply for a passport, and know where they were along the journey. And we are going to be putting out guidance that is going to be driving towards this type of interface and harmony across our ecosystem. The Biden-Harris administration has been very forward-leaning when it comes to trying to advance us universally across our federal agencies. So top of mind for us is cybersecurity. That is our job every minute of every single day. We are attacked by adversaries hundreds of thousands of times a minute. We are under attack. We know that our adversaries in many cases are already in our networks, and we are working hard on our zero trust framework, writing a national cybersecurity policy, writing action plans under that so we can measure. You can't manage what you can't measure, so we are focused very diligently on making sure that we see the entire landscape, we understand what is going on in our ecosystem, and we can take action to make sure that we are keeping our data and the public safe. We've also worked very hard on diversity, equity, inclusion, and added accessibility to it. That is a real cornerstone of the work that we're doing in my office, and one of my colleagues is here Cassie Winters, who has been working diligently on accessibility guidelines. Next week, we're going to have the 50th anniversary of some of the first accessibility guidance that was put out by the federal government that included, physical plant, the curb cuts that we have that we all take for granted with a baby stroller or a walker. That was the guidance that put that forward in the United States. Digital's a small component of it, but an important component of it. We also, last year, put out an executive order on transforming the federal customer experience to rebuild trust. And in the conversation with the ministers this morning, trust was a big part of what all of us work very hard to make sure that we can support and maintain in all of our environments. And then coming soon, which I thought I could tell you about in more detail today, but unfortunately not, is delivering a digital-first public experience. We're putting out guidance that states clearly digital is the primary channel. Everything must be digital by default. To my point earlier, we will always make sure that we don't leave anyone behind, that we are able to provide the services to people with different abilities or different needs, but digital will be the default for every single agency, every single budget, every single thing that we invest in the United States. And I could not be more excited. This is part of my life's work for the last 20 years. And seeing this come across the finish line will be an extraordinary moment. I wish I was here to toast with all of you, but I will be home toasting with my family, most likely. So one of the things that we have worked very hard on is, you've heard of human-centered design. We are trying to focus on human-centered policymaking. And that is a really big difference for us. As I said, that Congress writes the laws, they build the framework and the guardrails for us to operate. Then we are required to write policies that actually help agency teams deploy. So every team is on their own journey. Every single agency mission is at their own unique place. So this is a very important framework that we've developed. So the high maturity agencies understand this and are providing feedback. The lower maturity agencies understand what they need to work on to deliver services more efficiently to the government. Our policy experts, our legal teams across government understand the best practices, and then we build shared standards and services and sometimes solutions that will actually deliver this across government. So we are happy to say that some of these new policies that we've been putting out have followed this. It is user-centered. Our agencies are doing user research with every single product and service that they are delivering. We're writing it into contracts. We are making sure we have standard language that actually moves us all forward. We take those insights from the public and from our agencies in order to better inform the policies that we are putting out. In addition to that, we also put out a lot of our policies for public comment so that we can get security researchers and academics and subject matter experts in private industry to give us the best feedback so that we can craft the most actionable policies possible. So digital experience, which we've all heard of customer experience. Digital experience is really that customer experience that we all work so hard on, but delivered through these digital channels. Whether it's a website, a chatbot, all of those interactions that we use need different guidance. They need different standards. It needs different framework than some of the other components of customer experience. We also work on these multi-channel journeys going from, if you survive a disaster in the United States, you have to go to 5 different agency websites, oftentimes putting in the same information multiple times. If you're lost your home in a tornado, you don't have your driver's license, you don't have your electric bill, you can't identify yourself, you might have left the house without your wallet to save your life, and we make it hard on people surviving that. So building all of these through this multi-channel life experience and life event framework helps us find those places where we should not be burdening the public to try and figure out how our agencies work. That is a failure on our part and something that we are unified from the president down in the American government to try and solve. And then again, we will constantly focus on the non-digital experiences to make sure that we are delivering the best services possible. But this is probably, for many of us that work in government, kind of an important slide. We have to change. We can't constantly be expecting the public to change. We need to change. We need to change the way that we plan, the way that we deliver, the way that we measure, the way that we write policy. We have to change across our ecosystem in order to basically go on this complete journey, right? Focused primarily, we start with security. We don't bolt security on at the end of a product delivery. We have security engineers, site reliability engineers in our first product concepting meeting. We need our security community with us to build the best products and services possible. Our budget colleagues are mission critical. I am often introduced as a member of the Office of Management and Budget. It is our finance office that runs the budget of the federal government. Very important that we are housed there in the executive office of the president, because we're able to work with our budget colleagues to support each agency's mission. As I said, everyone's on their own journey. Every mission, every agency mission is in a completely and totally unique space. And so it is really essential that our budget colleagues recognize that we're able to work with them to translate things so that we can fund the projects that have not only the greatest chance of success, but the most important projects to deliver services to the public. There's no conversation in technology without talking about the workforce, about talking about all of you, the people that do the work every single day that are dedicated and mission-driven. But we need to constantly provide our workforce in the United States the opportunity to upskill, to retrain, to learn new things, right? AI is coming at all of us. We just kicked off a 6-part series training the federal workforce on AI, so that everyone gets an opportunity to learn at a pace. It's run by Stanford University, which is a leading AI think tank based out in Silicon Valley. And we hope to be able to train our entire workforce, including our leadership, on the basic tenets of AI so that we can make more informed decisions about AI. Procurement. If I were going to try and tackle anything, and I am so curious to continue to learn from my colleagues around the world, including Iceland, it is really challenging to write great technology contracts when you don't necessarily have technologists trying to advance the mission. So we're working really hard across our ecosystem to make sure that we're partnering technical subject matter experts with our procurement and acquisition folks, so we are writing the best possible contracts and using our leverage and buying power across the United States government to get from private sector companies the most efficient and best price for the goods and services that we procure. Some of our vendor partners know a lot more about our government than we do from inside the government. I have to manually ask agencies, what's your rate card for Microsoft Office? How many Microsoft Office tenants do you have? What level of security you have? When our vendor partner knows all of that information. So we're trying to change this and advance the way that we operate in the government so we have much more transparency, and we can be a heck of a lot more aggressive negotiator when it comes to providing those services. So some of our big agencies are really very talented at this, and some of those smaller agencies don't have a procurement person, and they have to buy from the vendor in a completely different way. So we're working hard on that. Digital delivery, as I've talked about, modernizing services. digitization, getting rid of paper, any place that we can possibly get rid of paper, building shared services, designing, building, and adopting those shared services, and importantly, standards. We have started using standards in our nomenclature because previously we only talked about shared services, but having shared standards is really important because we do have some teams in government that are really capable of operating on their own. They just need the guardrails. Right? They are very well funded. They have great technical talent. They know what to do. They know how to operate. So we're continuing to work on standards along with shared services. And then, as I said, you can't manage what you can't measure. So performance measurement, making sure that we have transparency across all of those is really critical and important for what we do. So I'm wrapping a little bit early, I think. I don't know that I've ever wrapped a little bit early in my life, so I tend to go on a tiny bit. But just wanted to say thank you all for your time. Thank you for the partnership with our Nordic and Baltic colleagues. Thank you, Iceland, for hosting us. It has been a wonderful couple days. Thanks so much, everyone.